reminisce about me describing my ancestor. One of my ancestors was the King of Ireland. Actually, quite a lineage of them. They were one after the other, but Rory was the most distinguished of the group. And I'm surprised that you even remember that, because when I tried to teach my history classes, I very rarely ever got a word in. You were holding court, usually describing how I should have coached the first 15 the previous week. So I'm surprised Rory got a mention.
He wasn't the only one.
To the Simpsons, Chris, you got me in all sorts of trouble. Many people in the room, I'm sure, will know one Carl Dickel.
Oh, yes.
Basketball coach. Chris was a brilliant young sportsman, and he inherited the genes from Linda and a little from Ian. Chris was a brilliant natural sportsman. I was coaching the first 15 at Logan Park High School way back then, and I had sighted Chris playing basketball, a game that I had no interest in whatsoever, but I thought that lad has got some special talent. He's going to play in the first 15. So with Chris, I hatched up the scheme to inveigle him out of that stupid game of basketball and transfer him at the age of 15, 16, wherever you were, across to the first 15. Carl Dickel got wind of it and attacked me in front of the whole staff at 8 o'clock one morning, and it was the funniest thing that he could ever be part of. I thought I was going to die. But he was totally, those of you who know Carl will see the humour in this, but it was one of the most hilarious things when he came after me physically in the staff room with people ducking in every direction, and I was called some interesting things that weren't quite true. So of course that one came unstuck. Is there anyone else who went before me? Oh yeah. I'll save him for later. I've only got one point to make tonight, that's why I've given you all that preamble. I've only one thing to say, and that is about Ian. The things that have been said by people here tonight are, to my mind, absolutely true. Ian Simpson was one of those really special leaders that you don't meet very often in life. He really cared about people. He really had an empathy with people. He felt for us as a teaching team, for the kids in the school. And I think the most graphic way I can describe that is the year 1988. The school inspectors descended on Kings. And if we can put this back in context, if you were a school that received a bad report, then you were in serious bother, because that was published and the public reacted accordingly and made decisions about where their children were going to be educated. So we took it very, very seriously indeed. And we particularly took it seriously at King's because of what we'd endured in those early days that we've already alluded to. I always had it tucked at the back of my mind, conversations I had in the first weeks that I was at King's. I sat down alongside the old tennis courts on the seats that right about room 16, 15, of those of you who can remember the old school, facing the tennis courts with a group of third form boys, and asked them about coming to King's, why they were there, what they thought of the school. And they said to me, and this really stuck, this is a dump school. This is a dump school. This is the school that you go to if you can't get into the other schools. And that frightened the living daylights out of me. It made me get stuck into what I had to do, to be honest. Ian changed all that. In 1988, the inspector story, this rooster came into the school, and I've got to say, and I'm not going to tell you who it was because that would be unfair. I'm simply going to say that it was not Murray Deaker. It wasn't Murray, and it was nothing like Murray. This man had the biggest ponamu that you could ever see draping from his neck, and he had got stuck into Ian. You didn't know I knew this one, did you? He got stuck into Ian because we weren't promoting biculturalism in the school as well as we should have been. And Ian roasted him. He shredded him, in fact. He told him that he cared with every fibre of his being for every single boy that he had in his school. And he didn't care whether they were Pākehā, Māori, any of the PI people, the Chinese, and he reeled off the numbers that he had of each ethnicity right across the school. They are all cared for equally. And I thought, yep, when I heard the story, second and third hand, I hope I've got it right, Ian. When I heard the story, I thought, that is exactly what my boss is like. That's the way he runs. The best illustration that I ever had of that was when we had our athletic sports. Now, Ian Simpson, to be fair, is as much of a simple jock as I am. We loved sports, we loved every athletic endeavour that there ever was in the school. If there was a game, we were into it. When the athletic sports came around, I spent my time, I was coaching the first 15, I spent my time going around the little kids trying to spot talent. The ones like Chris Simpson that I was going to steal in years to come for the first 15. What Ian did, although he would love to have been out there seeing the ones who jumped highest and ran fastest, he put his time into being with the special needs unit kids on the tennis courts, playing wheelchair soccer or whatever it was, and he made those kids feel that they were an integral part of the school, that they belonged just as much as anybody else did. And I thought, that man, that stuck very deep with me. That man really cares. He cares about every one of those kids to the extent where he's missing what's happening out on the track. That was not this, I didn't ever get to the stage of doing that, of making that sacrifice in, but it really taught me that my responsibility was to care for all the kids. I'm not going to big him up too much more because he eventually got rid of me. What happened in the next step in my career, James Hargest College in Invercargill, James Hargest High School, and amongst its distinguished alumnus, by the way, was Nick McIver. No wonder he's an outstanding rector. I went to that school. Fortunately for Nick, he escaped just before I got there. But they were looking for a new rector for their school, and they called in, chasing a gentleman, a very distinguished gentleman who'd been on Ian's staff, well known to many in the room, I'm sure, as Joe 90. Henderson had been the deputy rector at King's and had moved on to a principal of another school, and Ian had to explain, you're a few steps too late, folks. But I've got another young pup here that you might as well take a look at. It's very much second best, but you might as well have a look at this one. And mercifully, I suppose for me, not necessarily for James Hargest, they did, and that's what happened in my life for the next 17 years. So Ian, I've got a huge debt of gratitude for that as well. Thank you for the support and the encouragement that you gave me, because you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, to be honest. Thanks for what you did at King's, and thanks for the way you created such a compelling ethos. I cried like a baby, I've got to tell you, when I left King's in 1993. I was so sad to be leaving behind something that I knew was unique and special, and it really did get to me in front of all the boys, which is sort of breaks your cover a bit when you're trying to put on a macho image, doesn't it? But it was a place that I kind of regretted leaving. I was chuffed to have the opportunity that I grabbed with both hands thereafter, but King's has got something special that gets right into every fibre of your being, and you helped to grow it, Ian, to a very large extent. Brilliant job, well done, and I'm so pleased to see you getting recognition tonight.
Well done.
Grace is coming now.
When I get back to the mic, I can have another go.
Grace is coming.
There were many things with Ian that I'd love to have told you that probably can't. But I was at the start. We had a staff briefing in those days every single morning, and Ian came to the staff one Monday morning. He had a fight with Lindsay Hocking in the office, who was the deputy at the time. He had a fight in the office downstairs, and he came, and I've never been so relieved to have been away from the school. The staff didn't attend in sufficient numbers at the school ball. Ian came in and he delivered the passenger speech, which became a big legend in the school. He harangued the staff. He lost his rag totally, and it was pretty to watch. But it's one of those situations where people have been shredded, that even if you're not directly guilty, you feel guilty. I felt as guilty as all hell, and I'd been away on a rugby trip. I couldn't have gone to the ball even if I wanted to. I was relieved I was away, because I'm not much of a dancer, am I, Trish? No. I was relieved that I was away on the rugby trip, but I still felt guilty when the passenger speech was delivered. This is the same Ian Simpson, by the way. I didn't know that story about you having odd shoes on. Another morning briefing, we were sitting there, and Ian, bless his cotton socks, looked down at his feet, and he's got one brown shoe and one and one black shoe on.
No, it was one, not as silly as that. They were both black, but one was round-toed and the other was square.
Thanks for this superfluous detail. That's enough,
Glenda's
thank
fault. He still hasn't done what he's supposed to do.
you. Willow, come forward, please. Willow, get up here. Willow, come on. I'll make sure I've got this the right way around. Those of you who will know Willow will know that he did sterling service over a serious number of years as a rugby coach at King's. And the boys had a game today with Otago Boys High School, which we sadly lost, and I've been reminded that they only lost because of me tonight. The score was 20-15 to Otago Boys. It was a brutal sort of a game. I thought they were going to play some giggle rugby, but they beat the living daylights out of each other. They really did. Anyway, at that game, the boys put together a jersey, which everyone who played has signed, and they have a sweatshirt, and they want to acknowledge this man's outstanding contribution over the years to coaching at King's, which spread over quite a considerable time. Well done, Willow.
Well done, Willow.
And they also want me to pass this on to Ian, the same, a sweatshirt and a jersey. Gosh, I hope that jersey will fit. And for your distinguished leadership, they asked me to make mention of that tonight, Ian.